Hey, Corey Ackley here, Hammer Steel Performance. So pretty good 2 days on the dyno. Did a lot of work on collectors, collector lengths, collector diameter, to again try to extract as much power as possible, and also to just sort of get a better understanding. So first of all, I want to say I think I'm having a really good hair day, so we'll call that a plus. And you may hear some background noise. I got the grandkids are over, and they're playing outside, so all good. So what we use to test me, I use my gasser, which is an 03 Victor V92. It has a 100-inch big bore on it, cast pistons, 495 cams, and such. And yeah, good, makes pretty good power. Dirt cheap, but can't complain about that, and it's always a bonus. So what I've done now is I've tested 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different collectors and collector length combinations. I've also, in that comparison, did a shorty turnout. It's not one of the big name folks that you would think it is. It's just some guy that was did some exhaust stuff for a while and sort of dropped out of the business. But I do have that. I tested that, and we'll still sort of see how that does. And then I'll also go over the where this bike started. So when I did this build, I had some zoomies I got off of eBay, and that's what I used. And now you sort of see how far this bike has come along with using the right parts, the right setups. So it's gonna be pretty cool. All right, thanks. So the first series of collectors, what I did is I used, as I said, the Bassani Road Rage. I actually cut the muffler down, and what that allowed me to do was to insert a 2.5-inch diameter pipe into the front of the collector, and that's what I used. So I first started out with what would be called a 22-inch. So as I said, I used a 22-inch length collector, and that was the first series that we used to establish. And once I got the numbers from that, I went ahead and cut it down to 18 inches. And I used an 18-inch collector, ran it, got the data on that, and then made the final cut down to 15 inches. And that's what we use for the final test. And these are all 2.5-inch in diameter. For the next round of tests, I actually used the collector that comes with the Road Rage kit for the cross country. Still fits the same head pipes, but it actually has a smaller 2.25-inch diameter collector. And so what I did was I used the data from the test I did before, saying that was 18 inches was pretty optimum. So what I did here is I cut it to 18 inches, and that's what I run. Now, with that said, I could have started with a longer collector or a shorter collector to get a little more data, but to streamline the testing, I just went with a straight 18-inch collector at 2.25-inch diameter. For this test, this is a shorty turnout, nice stainless steel piece. Once again, I want to make sure this is not any of the big name people who make aftermarket exhaust. This was a guy that was making some exhaust and sent it to me. So this is a shorty turnout that does have a slight merge inside there where it necks down and opens back up, so like a merge collector design, and it sounded really good. We'll see how it made on power. Okay, here's the results. So what we have here is to recap. This is Bassani Road Rage head pipes with a modified collector that's 2.5-inch diameter collector that started out as 22 inches, went down to 18 inches, and then down to 15 inches. And it's a little trade-off below 3,000 RPM, but where you really see is a good chunk of torque increased, and then they all are comparable up top on horsepower. But the reason why I stopped at the 15-inch collector was the power was starting to come on early and was starting to nose over a little harder when you talk about peak horsepower. So I stopped at 15 inches for this test purpose. The other thing I also did was I stopped the runs at about 6,500. Just it wasn't making any more power. No need to keep abusing the engine on the dyno. So that's sort of what we use there. Okay, on this graph here, what we have is we have a 18-inch, 2¼ inch collector diameter versus an 18 2.5-inch diameter collector comparison. And so what we see is with the 2¼ inch diameter collector below I don't know 2,700, it does have a a little bit of rise there, about 2,500 RPMs, and then by 2,800 the larger collector takes over and makes more mid-range. And again, they're sort of combo up top, but we do see the 2¼ inch collector does start making peak horsepower a little bit lower and doesn't carry quite as far past peak horsepower. Okay, here we have a comparison between the 2.5-inch diameter, 18-inch long collector 2-in-1 with the shorty turnout. And what you'll notice there is obviously the shorty turnout is down everywhere, down about 15 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPMs, and she's down probably 6-7 horsepower at 6,000 RPMs. So just something to think about when you look at exhaust and exhaust designs. Okay, so this is what happens when you keep working and you keep taking information in. You sort of find out combinations and make power. So when I really started this bike, I had the Zoomies when I had it as a 100-inch with the 495 cams and so on and so forth. The reason why I used the Zoomies is because when the bike was a stock 90 V92 stock engine with a modified intake, I compared the Bassanis, the Zoomies, and a Dan Moto 2-in-1, and the Zoomies made the most power. So I said, okay, well, that's the exhaust I'll use when I turn to a 100-inch. But once again, what every combination is unique, and every combination has its own requirement when it comes to intake and exhaust. And this is a great example. Once again, I can't say, heck, I picked up 20 foot-pounds of torque at 3,800, 3,700 RPMs, picked up 6 horsepower on the top side. So what the Zoomies worked best when the bike was almost stock, but however, when the bike was modified, it had different requirements, and those requirements end up being my current configuration or the testing that I used on there. Pretty interesting. A lot of power to be made with the right combination of parts. Yeah, so I thoroughly enjoyed the last 2 days on the dyno, and I learned a lot. I mean, I did. I learned a ton. There's stuff that's out there. And again, there's books on this, and it will give you all the mathematical equations on collector length and header diameter and header size and all those other kind of things. But to be able to get on the dyno and then to do some experimentation and see if we can find what works. And so once again, I thought it was really cool, and I learned a lot. Now, with that being said, so there's also a level of reality in this, is that we have what we have when it comes to exhaust, because not everyone can take their bike, spend the money to put on the dyno after the combination is done, and then design the exhaust, and then have that, once you figure out what you need for as header length and header diameter and collector length, collector diameter, and then package that into something that looks appealing. That's a lot of work, and that would be a lot of money. On the gasser, it's really easy because I can the one, it's not a show bike, it's a hot rod, and so I can I'm not worried about taking a piece of tailpipe off of from O'Reilly's or AutoZone and hitting it with a few sheet metal screws and cut it down till based off the dyno, based off data on how much power it makes. So again, pretty neat. The other thing too is, over the last 2 days, I've picked up again 4 or 5 foot-pounds of torque, even more down bottom, picked up 10 or so from my last combination that I started with 2 days ago, and picked up a couple 3 horsepower. So, the bike is faster, and it keeps getting faster, but I haven't changed any hard parts. The hard parts are the hard parts, and what we're trying to do is optimize exhaust. So really cool. And now I'm going to take what I've learned here, and now this will help me design the the mid pipe that I will use on the cross country. You know, can I extract another 2 or 3 foot-pounds of torque, or a couple 3 horsepower on the cross country with a different collector design and a modified muffler. So I'll use what I learned there to here. So hope you guys like this. I'm having a great time. Hope I'm sharing things appropriately, and you guys are it's resonating with you, and we'll keep them coming. All right, thanks.